Right, so the last time we were talking about dark things, and we defined especially when it comes to the obsession, the interest in dark things in this world. Nothing describes it best than the goth culture, right? So remember the goth culture, G-O-T-H. The goth culture is a very prevalent and widespread culture and they are very interested in things that are dark. All right, they openly say that. Now, but they also say that, you know, while we don't all wear black, but they usually do. This is how they would normally look. This is the goth culture. All right. Yes, there will be some colors, but you would find that this is so common in cartoons, in magazines, in fashion shows by Gucci, even fashion shows. These are very common today. But this is defined as goth culture. And the goth culture people define themselves as people who are interested in things that are on the dark side. All right? So, for example, yeah, these are the kind of look of the goth culture, the kind of drawings, the kind of movies, and so on, the kind of look, all right, the kind of look. So this is that goth culture look. Now, always remember, they openly declare that they are interested in things that are what would normally not be accepted as normal. All right, and they are drawn to things like the opposite. Like in the past, people are drawn to, for example, righteousness, good people. All right, in movies, for example, we don't encourage you to watch this kind of things for sure. But today, people turn to the villain, the bad guy. So like for example, this goth will write, you know, like for example, the show Star Wars, I think Star Wars, right? Not encouraging you to watch all this kind of thing. He said they are drawn to Darth Vader, who is the one in all black and the bad person. So they are drawn to the opposite. They are drawn to things that are dead. They are fascinated by death instead of being. People are usually don't want to talk about death. They're interested in living life, but they're interested in this kind of thing. So even when they like a tree, they like dead trees. Right? Is that a picture? Look, this kind of things, very macabre. All right, and these are the movies that were very popular as well. All right, even drawings, you will see the trees that they draw there, dead trees, and it's scary looking castles and that kind of look. So now why are we covering this? That's just a quick summary. Because this is something that your children and teens yourself are very exposed to if you're not careful. It's all over. It's a very big thing in like Japan especially, I think Germany as well, in some of these countries, but I found out that it's also very popular in Australia. I thought it wasn't. All right, all these kind of things. Then, are they okay for Christians? What does God say about these things? Are we just being overly critical? Are we exaggerating? Now, that's where we cover, those are the things we want to cover now in part 2, all right? Alright, so part 2. Now, what do dark things portray? What do goth and all these people portray? Now, they simply put, goth is someone who finds beauty in things that others consider dark. They love the dark and mysterious, but they say we're not evil. Now, this is a very important thing because of that, people say, oh, they say they're not evil, so fine, kids, it's alright. We ourselves may say, oh, they're not evil. I mean, it's just they're interested in different things from us, that's all. Next, then he say, well, in fact, goths are kind, non-violent, they are they like humor, but it's black comedy. All right, dark things make them happy because it inspired them. Now these are goths defining themselves. They say dark things make them happy, and it inspires them. So the question is this: should Christians find dark things inspiring, and it makes you actually desirous of it? That's the question. They say we do not worship Satan. We are not members of cults. We are fun-loving people. We are funny. Goths have one thing in common. They find beauty in what others consider dark. So what Christians would say, all these images, these inclinations to this death and devilish things, occultism. We find beauty in them. Now, then they emphasize this: we are friendly and misunderstood people. We are friendly and misunderstood. So you look at all those photographs. Some parents after that say, "Oh, they look so evil, look so scary." Some children say, "Why would anyone like that? They look so scary. They look so terrible." All right. So they say, no. Under all this, we are very fun-loving, very humorous, very friendly people. We are not Satan worshippers, and so on. Now, in fact, this is something that we must be very aware of. For example, many of these rock bands, they dress up like goths. They go up with settings like in hell and all that. They perform. Now, then when you interview them off stage, they are very humorous, very funny people. All right. And they are people that when they remove all the makeup, all right, they look very normal and decent. So it makes the Christian think, well, maybe it's nothing. It's nothing. Now, in fact, many of these are turned into something funny. Like today, you will have Dracula, a funny version of him. All right. Like Adam's Family. Adam's Family? I hope you don't know. Right? Adam's Family is all these people, they sleep in coffin. They sleep in coffin, and they have all sorts of very macabre and very devilish thing, but they are a very funny family. All right? So it's a comedy. And then you have it now made into cartoons. You have a funny Dracula as well. A very silly one is called Duckula. The duck, Duckula. Good, you don't know. All right? All these are things I watched when I was a kid. All right? The funny Dracula who's a duck. All right? And then you have the one that is a vegetarian Dracula, something like that. All kinds of things. They turn it into something just funny. Now, there is a very dangerous thing behind it. All right? You find it funny initially, but later you get more and more interested with the more serious stuff, but you think that it's nothing. Now, so it's just fashion. Now, like Michael Jackson's Thriller, well, probably one of the super high-grossing, multi-million-dollar making music video. Thriller, the song also. It's all zombies dancing, right? Then after that, everyone start to dance like zombies. Zombies, interest in zombies. They find it interesting. Now, not only that. Perth Walk. I don't know whether you knew. I found that this is a zombie walk. All right, zombie walk. And it's actually so in 2015. Can I open? Don't know how to open. Anyway, I can't open it for some reason. All right, it always happens like that when I'm presenting. But anyway, it's a medical event to encourage people to come and go for a walk and raise funds and that kind of thing. But they call it zombie walk. Everything is just fun, that's all. So people come dressed like zombies and walk around and all that. Very good fun. Children will come like that. So this whole thing, this thing of darkness have become mainstream. You say, is it all right? We'll see afterwards. Is there a problem? We'll see afterwards. But this is what society is. You have to be aware of that as a Christian. So you say, we just misunderstood, that's all. And they romanticize a lot of things. So they say, like for example, like, what's that, just now that show, the people are wolves, that kind of thing, and it's a love story. It's a love story between these werewolves and a human being, and then they fall in love, and then the whole society don't understand that, but they're actually good werewolves. I don't know whether that's the storyline, but many storylines are like that. And then they write songs, very romantic songs, and it becomes a craze and all that. So they romanticize even this area of darkness. So now people see all these things, they're actually like us, and they're very pitiful, and they are to be loved, even entered into a relationship. Now, so promoted through books and all that. I mentioned Adam's Family. Now, I mentioned this in my preaching before. I don't encourage you to go and look at the video. I look at it for the sake of research, but I explained it to you. Satan in 2020. 2020, that is COVID-19 period, right? So Satan was very, very bored. Nothing to do, can't go disturb people, everyone locked in-house. So Satan was very bored, so he looked for a dating application. Now this video was a big hit, you know. Parents, I strongly don't encourage you to let your children watch it. Right? It looks actually very scary. So Satan is a very normal person, went on a dating app, found a girl, and then they fell in love, they met and they fell in love. Lots of very funny jokes. Alright? I have to say it's funny. They were very creative with the jokes, but they turned devilish things into something funny. Alright? And so he's just one regular cool guy, humorous, fun-loving. But, you know, many people don't understand him. So he's misunderstood. So they paint Satan as that. And people love it. People love it. That's why goth is someone who finds beauty in what other considers dark. And they're inspired by these things. Now, I'll just tell you the picture now first, and then I will talk about now, as a result, what does dark things promote? Is it alright? Is it good fun? Is it fine? Is it alright for your children to watch this kind of thing, dress like that? Now, what dark things promote? Dark things reverses morality. It's already very difficult to have morality in society, but it reverses it. Evil is portrayed as good and misunderstood. So many of these movies today even transit. They may not dress like the goths and all that, but the theme is the same. The villain, the murderer, the bank robber, the killer, all this, they are misunderstood people in society. They are actually very good people, very kind, and run with them. That's why today you have many children run away with gangsters, girls, because they're influenced by this thing and say, these people are good. Robbers, murderers, villains are good now. Now, fascination with darkness and the macabre. Now, and the evil side of supernatural. Now, this is the first step of entering into the supernatural and occult. If you are not interested in these things, you will just avoid this. But this, you have to be introduced through this path first, until you find that, you know, all this mysterious thing, occult and all that, is actually interesting. Then you will now start to dabble in them. Now, what else do dark things promote? Now, it downplays death and makes it attractive. Not only universal fear, now the only universal fear is death. Men fear death, but now it's turned into something that is very fascinating. In fact, these people over time, and people who are interested in the dark, they like to watch people die. They will even send videos of their relatives dying, taking their last breath, and you will have a lot of hits. Right? Some will encourage someone else to die so that they can commit suicide, so they can video the death. How does society reach this stage? How? It reaches this stage because of thinking that these things are actually fascinating. No, when God reminds men of death, and there is something that is horrible, is to awaken men and make men fear death, so that men will turn to God for salvation before they die. Instead, now people actually, even suicide is turned into something as a fashion. It's almost like people who want to commit suicide or does commit suicide and they send out things. It's like, I'm one of those. You are not one of them. All this time, all these things become attractive. Now, next. So, now, it's very clever. Satan is very clever. He turns it into fashion. Because fashion is the most appealing thing to young or old. Fashion. So it becomes a fashion thing. That's why their dressing is very important. It makes the statement, but it draws you in. Now, for example, it also changes the true meaning of resurrection. God talks about resurrection of the dead. Zombies, they paint them as deformed, scary, but powerful. Very powerful. Many even think, if I die, that's fine. I become a zombie. That's all right. That's all. In fact, zombies, even humans are afraid of them. They're more powerful. So all these things began to change in people's mind. But God says, I will resurrect the unbelievers. When I resurrect the unbelievers, they don't become zombies. They will be judged. And they'll be sent to eternal lake of fire. It's a terrible suffering. It's not zombies eventually just roaming the earth. That's all. Now, I don't want to show zombies because it's going to frighten your children. But that is what it is. Zombie walk. Now, it's just something that is funny. That's all. At the most, maybe people die after that. One day, apocalypse, and then people are just like that. That's all. No eternal judgment is there. Now, effects of dark things. As a result, people reject the gospel. People just think, well, now this is what you actually hear people say now. I prefer to go to hell if Satan is there. Hell is fine with me too. Satan is more interesting than God. These are things that young people say and write today. And they don't say or write it in jest. Means as a joke. They are serious. Dark things have changed the thinking of a generation. As adults, you may not think so. But a generation that really simply see all this death, hell, judgment, death, and all this kind of thing as something that is just an alternative. In fact, because now they are, as God, right? I'm attracted to the dark side. The dark side is actually nicer, and I prefer that. So if Satan, the Bible calls Satan the prince of the power of the air, and the Bible talks about the power of darkness in the air. So Satan is the prince of darkness. If Satan is the prince of darkness, now to them, hell and all that is just another place. It's not suffering. In fact, I prefer to be there. And if Satan is there, I actually prefer to be there with him. They actually say things like that with genuine preference. So to them, religion is just a preference. You choose Jesus Christ. You want to go to heaven. Heaven is all the goodies, and then I don't sin. I don't do that kind of things. But hell is where is my kind of people. That's the kind of things I like. So I choose to go to hell. That's all. It's a preference. Just another religion. Now it is. So some choose Jesus, who is the light of the world. I choose Satan because I prefer dark things. That's all. It's more potent than Satan worshipper. It's more potent than Satan worshipping. Satan has moved the worship of him to a very different plane through dark things, through the goth movement. He's moved it to I am nice. In the past, Satan worshippers, they still know this is very, very radical, and Satan is evil. We are worshipping evil. But now he has moved it to a stage where it's not even worshipping evil. It's worshipping something that is alternative. In fact, it's attractive. That is all. Nothing evil. Now, I don't know whether you read, not too long back, someone in Australia was fighting very hard for Satanism to be taught in schools. Because he said, Satanism is just another religion. It's discrimination if you teach Christianity, you teach other religions in school, but you don't teach Satanism. It's discrimination. It's just another religion. So today, society, because of these dark things, they feel that dark things is just alternative, just another thing that we like, is now normal. How can you reject something normal? In the past, people won't even think of saying Satanism should be taught in school, because Satanism has to do with wickedness, devilish things, evil. You don't want children to be evil. But today, no, it's not evil. It's just alternative. It's nice. I'm just attracted to those things, that's all. So Satan now has moved it to another level, another playing field. Parents, if you're not aware and you think these are just, I just dress them like that. They like it, it's all right. They like those cartoons, it's all right. It's just the beginning of the forming of the mind that they will come to a point, I choose Satan rather than God. What is wrong, Dad? I don't understand. Now, the other thing about dark things, the goth movement. A study from the British Medical Journal, now they concluded identification as belonging to goth subculture, the dark subculture, at some point in their lives was the best predictor of self-harm and attempted suicide among teens. This is doctors, medical science doing research. Why are there this increase in self-harm and suicide among teens? And they found that those that were involved in that, whether they are in it now or they used to be involved in it, they say it's the best predictor. Why? Why do you think? Does it come as a surprise? They already said people are drawn to living, we are drawn to death. That's all. So teens over time grow in that belief, that understanding, and that desire. So they do self-harm, they commit suicide. They think it's just an attraction. So they're very fascinated by it. According to Guardian, some goth teens are more likely to harm themselves or attempt suicide. Medical Journal says, and so on, right? So you just read for yourself. School children until their teens found that 53% of goth teens have attempted to harm themselves. 47% have attempted suicide. The study found that the correlation was stronger than any predictor. Just now I began by asking, all this is just a fashion. Is it just fashion? Is it just interest? Is it just harmless? And anyway, look at these people. They're funny. They're comical. They're actually normal daily life people like us. No, what they propound, and this is the power of it, is very subtle, is very non-insidious, is non-threatening, is non-dangerous. We are just like you. It's just fun. No, the real effect is the people that get involved in it lead to this kind of self-harm. Now, Satan wants you to destroy your body. That's for sure. Right? The seniors who attended Seniors Fellowship, you learn. Jesus Christ, to save us, did not just come and save us spiritually. The reason why Jesus Christ must be born as a through a virgin birth, must become human flesh. Why? Because He's here to redeem your body as well. That is why one day you will have your glorious body. So Satan hates anything that Jesus Christ redeems for Himself. Jesus Christ hates life. Let's say that. Satan hates anything that Jesus Christ redeems for Himself. Satan hates anything that God would die for. Harm the body. Die. Commit suicide. Please know that this is not harmless and just fashion. Now, this is so similar to scriptures. When in scriptures people are demon possessed, alright? Mark 5:5. And always night and day he was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying and cutting himself with stones. Self-harm. Now, tombs. These people are very interested in cemeteries. Remember the pictures that I showed you? They like to draw cemeteries. They like to, and even sleep in coffins. Right? So there are always these comedy shows. Right? This person very goth and all that, dressed in goth. And the person's bed, when a friend comes and visit, oh, you sleep in a coffin? Yeah. You sleep in bed, I sleep in a coffin. And real people do that now. It's not even a joke. Tombs. You see, when these people were possessed by demons in the New Testament, they go to the cemeteries. They hang around there, crying and cutting themselves. And oftentimes, another case, oftentimes he casts himself into the fire, try to die, commit suicide, into the waters, to destroy him. But if thou canst do anything, have compassion on us. Please save my child. Don't think that God only existed now. It's something that Satan has always promoted. Now it is mainstream. Desensitizes. Alright? Desensitizes. Supernatural evil seen as winners. Like I said many times, now many movies, the wicked, the villain, they are the heroes. And they're sympathized as underdogs. The reverse of morality. Satan is misunderstood and so on. Right? Satanism is what I mentioned. Now, I'm not sure whether you read in the news. Now they say there's a romantic beauty in the gruesome death and suicide and horrors. That is what this this attraction to darkness began to change people. Did you read in the news? In the US, this senator's daughter. You know, it was in the news, so I just clicked it and watched the video. It was this teenager girl and this teenager boy. They were lying in bed, videoing themselves for YouTube, and then they were laughing and giggling, right? And then the boy said, this, so don't quote me verbatim, it's roughly like that from what I remember. He said, this is the third day. Then they laugh, giggle, third day. Third day what? Why are they giggling? Third day since we killed someone. This is teenagers who murdered someone and put it on YouTube, you know. They actually find watching someone die, killing someone as something beautiful, something funny, something even romantic. Do you know who they killed? The girl's father. The teenager was also giggling. And then the boss said, the third day since we killed your dad, or something like that. Then the girl suddenly realized, come on, don't put that on online. And then she started to giggle again. This is what it is today. This whole attraction to all this gruesome and all that is norm. You let your child be involved with that. This is the thing that darkness does to them. Of course, they got caught. Both got arrested. And one of the things that he kept doing in the video is he kept choking her. And then she almost fainted and then almost passed out. Then she kept coughing and then they laugh. It's all these kind of things. The choking. Remember I said one of the fashion of the gods is chokers. Now all these things would just naturally come out of the wicked men, you know. Right, it's very quiet now, right? So don't think I'm covering something that we are just being overly, is BPCWA again, overly crazy about this, overly critical and think too much. This is society that you are facing. So this fascination and obsession with the macabre and death. Oh, so this is the news in UK, all right? So there's a strange liking to experience fear and mystery. That's why many of the teens, they like to read these storybooks that are about ghosts, about werewolves, Dracula, and all that kind of thing. But now this thing turned into a romantic thing, right? So the whole book industry is booming on that. That is why I showed you this the other week, right? How to show you? Anyway, I showed you, look in bookstores, bestsellers are All the Dark Things. These are the bestsellers. They love the mystery, the intrigue, the fear. Stop reading it. If you're afraid, why do you read it? Cannot put it down. Dare not go to the room at night. Dare not go toilet anymore. You have to go toilet with the kid. Right? Kids are like that now. In Singapore, there was a big series. The author even turned up to sign books. Children were just drawn to it. That is the flesh. Now, the warnings and corrections. What does Scripture say about these things? God says, woe unto them that call evil good, and good evil, and put darkness for light, and light for darkness, and put bitter for sweet, and sweet for bitter. You know, this verse is like written during Isaiah's time, but perfectly describes us today. God will say, woe unto them, there will be judgment for these people. There will be curses on these people. They will end up in a very bad state, because evil does that. Darkness does that. Is it called, and what, put darkness for light? They openly say that people find, we are people that find attraction in darkness. That's all. Darkness for light. This is attractive. And light for darkness. No, this Christianity thing is not good. Don't talk about, you know, it attacks our desire for the darkness. Maybe teens, you may start to feel, the church always say these things are evil. Well, then you begin to think, well, those people put light for darkness, I don't like them. Or darkness, light for darkness, I don't like. If people say, this is darkness, I don't like them. Right? Bitter for sweet. Death is bitter, but this is sweet. God says, this fascination of darkness and the evil side of the supernatural. Now, God says, this is the message that we have heard. This is a message which we have heard of Him, and declare unto you, God is light, and in Him is no darkness at all. God is light. The Christian must know, there must be no darkness in me as well. There must be no interest, no desire, no attraction. If there is, this is wrong, not this is fine. God is light of the world. Satan is prince of powers of the darkness. God hates darkness. Satan walks in and loves darkness. Now, John 3:19, God says, and this is the condemnation, that light is come into the world, and men love darkness rather than light. Men love darkness. You think that this goth movement, this desire of darkness, you think is something that is shocking? No, men love darkness. God already said that. When they say, you know, it's just that we find things of darkness more attractive, they are just making a simple statement that, yes, I'm just succumbing to my evil nature and giving into my evil nature. That's all. Because God said, yes, you will love darkness. So we are supposed to resist darkness, not love darkness. Now, if you like to read all this kind of ghost story books, watch these kind of ghost movies, please know, God says, for God hath not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. If you like these things and you read them or watch them, you're attracted to them, you will end up in a spirit of fear all the time. Because God knows, Satan knows, God does not want you to have a spirit of fear. But I will make darkness attractive to you. You succumb to it, and I will keep bonding you and slaving you in this spirit of fear. You should not put them away. Simply put, God is someone who finds beauty in darkness, in things that others consider dark. This is their statement. This is their definition by themselves. Now, I was quite surprised to read this in the scriptures. Isaiah 13:21-22. I did not notice this until I read in light of darkness. God says when the land was judged and this area was forsaken and it was just horrible place to be. God described this place like that. But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there. And the wild beasts of the island shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant places, and her time is near to come, and her days shall not be prolonged. So God says, you know, these places that I have judged and will come and judge more fully, God described it in the way that is exactly the pictures that we saw just now. Now this, like Adam's Family, like all these kind of movies, now they will have owls, right? Harry Potter have owls. Many of these owls are related to that. And interesting that these night creatures. And God says, you know, these are the places that I judge. That is where the owls will go. Doleful creatures. Doleful creatures. Creatures that will howl, scream, cry. Like very sad, very tormented. Doleful. Doleful is sad. So the interest in this darkness, this sadness, this screaming, this crying, they say, oh, we just consider this thing as attractive. But God says those are judged things. Satire shall dance there. Means these animals that are probably possessed by the devils, they will be there. They will cry in the desolate houses, right? It's always these empty castles, desolate, but they're attracted to all these kind of things. God says that these are things that are judged, not to be attracted. Now, trivialize and distorts death. I mentioned about zombies. They trivialize that. God says, I will judge them and send them to hell. Trivialize. We become zombies, that's all. And then we just walk the earth. What should you do? Well, before that. Now, when people begin to think that there's an alternative and really believe it, you say, come on, no one believes that. You really think people don't believe that? There are people that actually commit suicide. That's how much they believe in it. This is not an exaggeration. If it were not true, why would people actually commit suicide and die? If they don't think that this is actually just alternative and attractive. Now I want to say one thing about church. We are in a very safe environment. You may think that many of these things are extreme. Just because you're not exposed to it, your children are not, at least as far as you know, they may be, doesn't mean that out there it is not real. It is very real. Let me give you an example. Now, how many of you think UFO exists? Phoebe, you're scratching yourself. What are you putting your hand? Scratching yourself, all right. How many think UFO is real? I mean, all of us are laughing, right? Come on. You know, UFOs, these creatures from another planet, and then most of the time we've been laughing. In fact, it was so laughable that the United States military say any pilot, any military personnel who sees UFOs, means things that they can't identify and they're flying. They're not saying it's from another planet. They say you can't identify it. You are not supposed to talk about it. You're not allowed to talk about it because it's a joke. If the military, United States military is so advanced, believe in such a thing, it will be a laughing joke. But do you know what it is today? Those of you who follow the news, today they are commanded to tell and to video and commanded that you must document UFO sightings. And they release all those documents that they don't want public to read and think that they are crazy. They release it now. And they are now believing there are UFOs. Why do I bring up this example? You and I think that all these things won't affect us that much, won't affect my children that much. You do not know the world out there. They believe in it. They will die for it. What should we do then? Works of darkness must be reproved. Because God says, in times past, ye walk according to the course of the world. You are believers now. In the past, you like those things. According to the prince of the power of the air. Then he says, have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness. You see, God keep talking using the word darkness. Today they say we are attracted to darkness. It's just an alternative. But God uses the same word, unfruitful work of darkness. Have no fellowship means have nothing to do with them. Instead, do what? Reprove them. That is what I'm doing here. I'm telling you to have nothing to do with it. That's not good enough. God says, please, rather you must do this instead. Not only keep away from it, you must do this instead. Reprove means expose it. Prove that it is evil. Tell men that this ought to be denounced. That is reproof. Why do church do this? Because this is so prevalent out there, the Christian must reprove them. So that Christians do not fall into it. Now next, God says anything that's reproved are made manifest by light. Use scriptures to show your children, yourself. Teens, listen to this. Then you say, oh, I'm reading scriptures. Now God's light have shown that these things are wicked. Cast off the works of darkness. Let us cast off the works of darkness. If you have any of this, throw it away. If you have clothes like that, throw it away. Don't give it away. Don't make someone else dress in it. You have makeups, you have comics, you have videos, whatever. Throw them away. Cast them off. If you're playing with any of these occult things, cast them off. Parents, you go back and check what your children are reading and watching. Alright? We must walk in the light. Now God says, what communion hath light with darkness? The Christian cannot say, well, I'm a Christian. Yeah, the church is too serious. I still have some of these things in my life. God says there's no communion. There's no interaction. They have nothing to do with each other. If you are light, you are a child of God, then these things must have nothing to do with your life. There is no such thing as it can exist alongside. God says wrestle, fight against them. God says, now, the psalmist says, I will set no wicked thing before my eyes. I hate them that turn aside. It will not cleave to me. Do you hate these things? I told you before, when I was a young Christian, I was very enthralled by these things. In fact, I find cartoons that are drawn like that more fun to watch than the normal kind of cartoon. The Christian must say, I must set these things not before my eyes anymore. I will never watch it again. I hate them. I hate the work of darkness. Not only I'm not interested, I will grow to hate them. Now, do I hate them now? I hate them. Why do I hate them? Because it enslaves people. Because it turns Christians into useless vessels for God. I hate them because unbelievers, now maybe you're an unbeliever, I hate them because you think that it is an alternative and you will end up in hell forever and ever. The Christian must see it from the eyes of God. This is something hateful. I hate them because it causes teens to commit suicide, let alone murder. Now, God says those that are involved in this, their understanding is darkened. You see, it's always back to these words, darkened. And they will give themselves over to lasciviousness, to walk unclean, all uncleanness with greediness. That is the definition of God. We love darkness. We love these unclean things. We love these things and we will pursue it and with greediness. God says this is what it is. A Christian should not be like that. Do not watch these shows. Do not dress like them. Do not put on your makeup like them. It's always the external and it will slowly grow into you. Unless it's already in you, that's why it's coming out in the external. Do not talk about them as if they were not evil. When you talk about these things, when your friends joke about these things, when they talk about Adam's family and the joke in there, it is not a joke, it is not funny. The reason why the world makes it into a joke is to make it, to soften it so that you will find that it is funny and it is alright. Destroy traces of this from your life. Drawings. If you like to doodle, you like to draw, and then you find that actually I'm drawing, my drawings are all this kind of very dark kind of look. Change your drawing. I'm not saying you cannot draw. Change them. Look at different kind of drawings. Your wardrobe, I mentioned. Your music. Now all these things are already permeated. The goth movement has permeated, means gone into all these areas. Now finally God says, don't be unequally yoked with unbelievers. For what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness? What communion hath light with darkness? None. So the Christian must have none of this. Alright, so I hope time is up. I hope that I've covered in these two parts at least a surface of helping you to understand these are not things that what the God says is just an alternative, that's all. God says is darkness and evil. Let us pray. What do we have here? Top 5 reasons why church dropouts, what church dropouts say, why they stop attending church. Now please remember 66% of, well, I take the American view, they are the most readily available results. They stop attending church at least a year after turning 18. So from